Hello. In my previous video, I showed you my collection of Sharp Soroban electronic calculator and abacus hybrids. Today, I want to show you my small collection of regular, standard, modern Japanese Soroban. And by modern Soroban, I mean in the modern configuration of 1 plus 4 beats. There's other abacus, other Soroban in the market. You can still find them, maybe not new, but used, that have 1 beat at the top and 5 beats at the bottom. Those are the older style. Eventually, Japanese ditched the last beat of the 4 at the bottom, and this is what we know as a modern Soroban nowadays. And I want to start with this little guy here, because this was my first abacus ever. I mentioned in my previous video, by the way, have a look at it if you're interested. But I mentioned in my previous video that my interest in Soroban, in Japanese abacus, started because I discovered the Sharp Soroban calculator abacus hybrid. But I couldn't wait for the one I bought on eBay to come all the way from Japan. So I went on Amazon and bought this little guy. I believe I paid somewhere around $8 or $9. It's very cheap. It's made all out of plastic. You can still find it in Amazon. This one is a 13-bit abacus. Again, I paid $8 or $9. I had a look again, and now it was $12. So it went up in price since the few months I've had it. So this abacus is really very simple. It's cheaply made. It came in a plastic bag with a stapled paper, like a blister pack that you would have hanging in a store. And again, it's all made out of plastic. The frame, the beads, even the rods are plastic. It doesn't look too good, to be honest. The rods are not very sharp, and they drag quite a bit when you slide them on the rods. If you're using it, you can feel there's a significant amount of drag. It's not unusual by any means, but it's not very nice to use. It does its job, but that's pretty much it. And if we have a look at the bag, you can already see what's going on here. It has a sticker with 2 sections for class and name. This is something that a student, very young student, would probably use in the class. They would have them all in the class, and this way they can identify who it belongs to. It does look good. I mean, the shape of it is like that of a regular abacus, but it's the execution that lacks a bit of quality. But of course, what can you expect for an $8 abacus? It does its job. There's a little bit of distortion on the frame. There's some burrs on the edges, again, injection molded, but it does its job, and this is what I started with. The only thing I find a little bit unusual, and I'm not an expert by any means, is that you can see these dots that indicate the position of the unit markers. So this would be separation between single units, decimals. It would be tens, hundreds, thousands, and there's another dot here. Normally, it's in the middle rod. This one is 1 to the right. I'm not sure if that is normal or not for a 13-rod abacus, but definitely is the only one I have that has the dots in this sort of shifted position, which makes it a bit confusing, because most abacus have an odd number of rods, then the middle one is the units, but this one has the dot 1 rod to the right side. That's unusual. Moving up, I'll show you my next abacus, and I'm going in order of quality. Let's say this is a Tomoe Soroban model. The model is great. It's awesome. This is the only one I bought used. You can see the box is a little rough in some spots, but other than that, it just works pretty well. You can still see the original price here, 1,500 yen, and this is like night and day compared to the previous Soroban. They don't look much different, right? You put them side by side, they kind of look the same, but there's absolutely no way. These are completely different leagues. This guy is all made out of wood, except only for the central rod, which is normal. But this is a beautiful abacus. It's all made out of wood, polished wood, and it's been lacquered black. You can see the sticker here. It says Tomoe. By the way, Tomoe Soroban. And you can even, I'm not sure if the camera will catch it, but there's the name there of, I believe that's who made this abacus in particular, because this is made by an artisan. The beads are made out of, I believe, birch wood. You can see just how nice and sharp they are. The edge of the bead is just sharp and nice to grab. The rods are made out of polished bamboo, and you can see how easily the rods slide in the abacus. The frame itself, the top and the bottom, have this wooden beams and that are held together by this circular round dowel, and this is what identifies this as one of the cheaper models in the Tomoe Soroban range. I've looked at the website and they don't advertise this as an existing line. It doesn't say great anywhere, but if you have a look at their website, and you will see that the cheaper wooden abacus that they have all have these rounded dowels on the edges, and I believe that their product numbers or product codes always have a G, in them, which I guess stands for great, even though they're not using that word specifically anymore. It's truly beautiful. On the back side, we can see this smaller dowels that are holding the frame in place to prevent from bending and twisting. And again, this is the only one that I bought used, and it does have a little bit of a wobble. The frame is not perfectly square. You can hear it. So these two corners are not perfect. It's a bit annoying. So you have to keep that in mind when you're holding it and using it, so as to not have it shaking. But other than that, it's just a great abacus. I really like it. I really like the shape. This is a 15 rod, by the way. You compare it to my previous one, 13 rod. You can see these are a bit bigger, and spacing is a bit off, but this one has an extra 2 rods. This is an ideal size, I believe, for a beginner. And I believe you can get this for around 5,000 yen. I'm not sure how that converts to your currency, but I bought this used pretty cheap for $10 on eBay. So pretty sweet deal. Now moving up, we have another Tomoe. This is the standard Tomoe Soroban standard. Here it says the same in Japanese. I bought this new, and this is their, well, standard range. It comes in this nice plastic wrap, and it also has the price sticker. See, it's 4,000 yen plus tax. Not sure how that would be in Japan, how much that would be. Yeah, pretty nice. So here we have moved away from those rounded dowels on the corners, on the edges, on the short edges, and now we have a fully squared frame. Now you can tell this is already a beautiful piece. If you can see it, it's nice and shiny and glossy. This black lacquer, it's just fantastic. It's fabulous. The craftsmanship that goes into making one of this it's really great. You can see how everything just fits together perfectly. It's all squared, polished, and lacquered black. It's like the previous one. It also uses this tiny metal rods to hold the different parts of the frame in place, but they have been sanded perfectly flush with the rest of the frame. I believe the rest of it is exactly the same. It still uses the plastic divider, which is, again, it's normal. Birch beads with a really sharp edge really makes it easy to operate them, move them around. and again polished bamboo rods. And this one has also the smaller dowels. I like how the center rod is like framed by these two dowels, so when you have it on the table you can really tell which one is the center rod. So it's really great, and this is actually what I bought right after I started using the cheap plastic Soroban. I probably used this for a couple of weeks before I decided that I really wanted something better, and I went for this. This is a 23 rod abacus. It's the second largest size. Largest size in modern abacus is 27 rods, which makes it a little bit larger. I don't have a 27 rod in a modern abacus configuration, but let me give you a sneak peek of something I have. This is a 27 rod Soroban, but of the older style. You can see that it has 5 bits on the bottom section. But you can tell the difference in size from 23 all the way to 27. I'll show this one in more detail in my next video, which will be of my, let's call them, unusual Soroban. But back to this. This is, I believe, the perfect Soroban. It just works beautifully, flawlessly. You could be using this for hours on end and not have a single problem. I really like it very much. And I thought I would get rid of it when I bought the one I'm going to show you next, but I just think it's such a nice looking abacus that I decided to keep it in my collection. It also has, let's see if we can show it, the signature of, I believe, whoever, the person, the artisan that made it. Really good looking abacus. But moving forward, this is the top of the line abacus for this brand in particular, Tomoe Soroban. All of my wooden abacus modern ones are from this brand, and I believe it's probably the biggest one still making them. You can see already what's going on here. This is called One Touch. So One Touch Soroban. It comes in this cardboard sleeve, and inside of it you find this beautiful plastic box. It's a hard box. The top of it, it's padded, very nice feeling. Tomoe Soroban stamped here in silver lettering. It's kept in place by 2 clicks. I'm not sure how to call them, but they call them clicks. When you undo them, this is what's inside. You could probably use it from inside this box if you keep this flat, or maybe even with this up, you could probably still use it here. But when you take it out, it looks a lot like the one I showed you before, right? But this is not the standard anymore. This is the One Touch, and I guess you have already identified what's going on here. This little button allows you to reset the abacus to its 0 position just by one touch. So if I press it, like magic, all the bits move away from the reckoning bar, and I essentially zeroed the abacus. With the standard, or any other abacus really, when you have been using it, scram a little bit, what you have to do is lift it, let the beads drop, and then run your finger across the top to zero it. This one, just push the button and you're ready for the next operation. Isn't that the coolest thing ever? Now, again, this is 23. I do like the 23 because it's not crazy long. 27, it's a bit too long for me, but they also make it in 27, of course. Other than that, a couple differences from the standard model compared to the One Touch. The shape of the frame itself is different. You can see that the standard has a flat bottom, and the top has this kind of triangular profile. And this makes it very easy to reset. So when you're using the standard, this triangular shape on top makes it easy to grasp, so you can lift it to reset it. Then you would just slide your finger across. The One Touch, on the other hand, has these concave edges. A bit difficult to show on camera, but you can see it's concave. This way you can have a better grip on it because you don't need to lift it. There's no need for that triangular shape on top because you don't have to lift the abacus. You just push the button and it resets. The mechanism itself is quite clever. It's very interesting. So you have, when you push it, you have these two metal bars that push the beads up and down away from the reckoning bar. So you can see it has this connecting links here and here, so the rods move at the same time all across the abacus. It's also interesting to note this wooden shape here. We still have some of the smaller wooden dowels, but the center uses this bigger piece. If you compare it to the standard, you can see the difference. This also elevates, I guess, the level of the quality of this abacus a bit more. And again, like all Tomoe Soroban. Let's see if it shows. It also has the signature of the artisan that made it right here. Difficult to show. This is my highest level Soroban, and this is the one I'm using nowadays most often. I do still use the standard from time to time just because I really love it. But this is the standard, the Tomoe Soroban One Touch. Now, is it really necessary to have this sort of mechanism? Not really. But when you're doing dozens or hundreds of operations, or when you're studying, being able to just push the button and you can start again, that ends up saving quite a few minutes at the end of the session. And this becomes a little bit annoying when you have to constantly be doing this and that. I don't know. Not the end of the world, of course. This is more of a nice to have feature rather than a must have, but it does help. Also, I don't quite like having to lift the abacus very often, especially when I'm studying and just doing series of operations. Having to lift it all the time, I always worry that they will end up scratching the bottom of the frame against the table. It's probably nonsense, but I think this gives me a lot more speed and allows me to perform more operations in a given practice session. So these are my 4 modern, let's call them standard abacus. They all look very similar, but they have some interesting differences. Now, I believe I will make another video explaining what is the best abacus for a beginner once I've shown all my abacus, because remember, I still want to make another video with my unique ones or unusual ones. But any of these 3 would make a very good abacus. You don't have to spend the $80 to $100 that the One Touch costs. You could go on eBay and find something for like $15, and that would be a beautiful, lovely, very nice functioning abacus to learn with. There's really very little difference between these 3 abacus. Between this and this, it's mostly cosmetic, and between this and this, the One Touch function gives you a little bit of convenience, but it's not a huge leap. It's more of a nice to have feature, as I said. Now, this one, it does work, but it's not a very pleasant abacus to use. You can learn with it, you could use this abacus all your life and have no problems, but if, like me, you value the quality, the craftsmanship, and the ease of use and the smoothness of the abacus, any modern wooden-made abacus will be ideal for a beginner. Anyhow, until next video, and thank you for watching.